with Nietzsche on the free spirit. Let me quote from The Twilight of the Idols, a very telling title. To learn how to see, Nietzsche writes there, that is to grant the eye tranquility, patience. To not react immediately to any stimulus, but to act upon one's highest instincts. To learn to see is what we can call the strong will. To react to everything immediately is a symptom of exhaustion. To be open to everything at any time is bad taste. How very telling is such a quote from Nietzsche. To react to everything immediately is a symptom of exhaustion. How exhausted are we today as we react immediately to everything that hits us in any given second? To be open to everything at any time, Nietzsche says, is bad taste. We are utterly exhausted today, are we not? So what Nietzsche calls for is O sancta simplicitas, O holy simplicity, as he writes in the chapter The Free Spirit, the second chapter of Beyond Good and Evil, O holy simplicity. Quote from Nietzsche, we free spirits have understood how to preserve our ignorance or our nescience in order to enjoy an almost ungraspable freedom, harmlessness, serenity, yes, to enjoy life. End of quote. We neither will to untruth, to uncertainty, even to ignorance today, a complete shutdown of all channels that supposedly inform us, or not even supposedly, but they inform. That means they pull us into a certain form and format us in such a way that we become constantly, permanently exhausted by the need to react and respond immediately to everything. And of course, these responses and reactions are nothing but what? Momentary outbursts of endorphins or other hormones that are triggered purposely by these machines of control. And we need to step outside the will to performance, to optimization. And that means also for Nietzsche, a will to truth. On self-optimization and our haste towards superficial goals, Nietzsche continues here in The Twilight of the Idols. Quote from Nietzsche, and everywhere an obscene haste rules, as if one would miss out on something if by the age of 23 a young man is not yet ready or completed, if he does not know yet the answer to today's main question, which job, which career. Higher men, if I may, Nietzsche continues, have time. They take their time. They don't even dream of being finished or ready. At the age of 30, one is a beginner, a child in high culture. They have time. We need to take our time. We need to say when we have time for us, and we take it for us as our time, and we do not simply say that we have no time. It keeps slipping through our hands. And at the age of 30, we are children still in high culture. That is the time that we need to take. And that is one way towards the freedom of the oikonomia scholeia, which we are after. Because all of this always has to do with an articulation of freedom. And in this our epoch, for some reason or other, it is through time that we are either enslaved or find freedom. Nietzsche continues by telling an anecdote about our educational system. Here's the short dialogue that Nietzsche relates. What is the task of all higher education? To turn man into a machine. What are the means to achieve that? Man needs to learn how to be bored. How do you achieve that? With duty. End of quote. So how can we be free in this age that bombards us with information, that dictates us constantly and remember firmly how to live and who to be, and look at those numbers today and those figures today and all the propaganda out there, which was renamed public relations at some point in this wonderful age after the Enlightenment, which is completely blind to its own darkness. We, children of the Enlightenment, we late children of the decaying Enlightenment, how do we break free from this vulgar understanding of freedom? In the free spirit, Nietzsche warns against any understanding of, say, freedom as absolute. Because for Nietzsche, every person or every human being is a prison, also a corner. Even if we were, this is a quote from Nietzsche, even if we were absolutely free, which is how Nietzsche understood or maybe misunderstood Kant. But then if we think that through, even then we can still get lost within ourselves. Nietzsche thus warns us of a freedom that comes all too cheaply, a freedom that is all too absolute and all too promising, and all too blind to its own darkness. What is crucial on the road to freedom is that one needs to know, as Nietzsche says, how to preserve oneself. Strongest test of independence. This knowledge of self-preservation tells us, quote from Nietzsche, do not see most things, do not hear them. Do not let all things affect you. In colloquial language, this is called good taste. End of quote from Nietzsche. In short, Nietzsche praises the ability to say no and to look away, to ignore. Yes to life, the life of elimination that Nietzsche is after. It's not a blind, pragmatic, or anything goes, a happy-go-lucky attitude. It's not optimism at all. Because optimism denies the value of suffering, which for Nietzsche is at the heart of the tragic truth of existence. So the opposite, even you could say, with modern optimism, preaches that tomorrow life will be better than today, of course, and it is blind. Its blindness is derived from its passivity. At the fundamental level, optimism does not require any action from you, just by the inevitable unfolding of history as progress. Everything will get continuously better just through technology at this point. And quite practically, the consequence can be, if your life doesn't get better, this will leave you in a state of despair. It's important, as we can learn from Nietzsche's Zarathustra, that we learn to pass by or to move over. As Zarathustra says, where you can no longer love, there you shall go over and beyond, away and beyond. It is crucial to see why Nietzsche used vorüber here in the German, vorübergehen, go beyond and away and over, because it includes the Über of the Übermensch and the Über of self-overcoming. Thus, freedom for Nietzsche is something to be earned. How to become free. Men, human beings of a noble kind, are those who value, who cherish their freedom from having to react immediately. They are deeply grateful at the same time for their origin, but they are capable at the same time, and this is most important, to leave whenever necessary. I'd rather die than live here, Nietzsche writes. Goethe perhaps is an example of this. Goethe left when he had to leave. He left for Italy because he couldn't bear Weimar any longer, and he had to see Rome because he thought that he could resurrect and enliven Greece again through that. To be able to leave is crucial on the path into becoming a free spirit. Leave at any time. Leave at any time is a sign of nobility, to be able to leave at any time. You need to have the urge for freedom but then also the strength to live in great loneliness and perhaps suffering. Those years will be years of experiment, and whoever manages to come through, who overcomes that great illness, achieves overflowing certainty and health. But of course, health for Nietzsche is not this hideous, uber-hygienic, clinical health of today. To be healthy means to be able to be sick. Health for Nietzsche is always intertwined with disease. You are never entirely healthy in our modern, ridiculous sense. Being healthy means to acknowledge our strengths and weaknesses. Being healthy for Nietzsche. So it's also possible to allow for suffering and for an incurable disease. You are healthy, you face death square, but you are not healthy when you deny your own sickness unto death. Boundaries, limitations are crucial also for Nietzsche. As Nietzsche writes, being sick is a stimulant for a healthy being. The yes to life originates from disease. The road to freedom is long, but if reached, it means mastery of one's heart, self-control. To speak with the will to power. One wills always just so much so that one can still will more. So the will to power is not exhausting itself for Nietzsche. One always has reserves left. If this freedom is achieved, then we are open, only then, for all different sorts of mentalities and experiences and ways of thinking. But only through loneliness and sickness and suffering, this can be achieved. There is no faking this. We are not simply free by being. This is not simply a fact. We need to become free. The free spirit unites within himself, quote, curiosity paired with gentle contempt. Curiosity paired with gentle contempt. Not ressentiment, but gentle contempt. The free spirit, hence, is of a noble prudence. When after years of suffering, from your will to freedom, humble freedom finally overcomes you. It is this moment when it happens, this Augenblick, that remains with us as a, quote, faint, fine light and sun happiness. And then we remember the coldness on the road to freedom. The day we left to find a place where we can live and not to die. And in recovery from our own willing and what it's brought us, we become warmer again. But most importantly, Nietzsche writes, quote, we then have a feeling and feeling with others that do become deep. These free spirits, after their illness, their loneliness, their suffering, their longing for death perhaps even, they lean towards life again, and they sing, a quote from Nietzsche, a quiet alleluia on life every day. This is the cure for all pessimism, not the optimism that is proclaimed everywhere, and not the notion of having no death and no disease, and everything can be cured just by a technological intervention. To remain a free spirit is not an easy task. It is a continuous attempt, a continuous searching. What is necessary at all times is to try to remain free from ressentiment, from a will to revenge. Contempt is fine, but ressentiment goes too far, of course. Freedom of ressentiment also includes what was mentioned above. Do not react to everything and everyone, because that breeds ressentiment. We become irritable, stressed, nerve-wracked. Our instincts become weak when we react to everything. We do not act anymore. Freedom from ressentiment also means to never attack someone who is lower than you. only attack those that attack you, that stand higher than you. Ressentiment is prohibited, of course, especially when you're sick. Making yourself free from ressentiment is the first step towards health. What is it that we mean here by ressentiment? Ressentiment is the deep-seated disgust with the world, a morbid disgust with the world, a morbid subjectivism, you could say, turning inwards entirely and then outwards again with nothing but a fatal resentment towards the world, where there is no great yes to life, precisely because why? Because suffering was denied its place and its value. Ressentiment also springs up when I do not accept the fate I was dealt. Amor fati, hence the response also to ressentiment. But we must stand fully in and on it, as Nietzsche would say, our disease, if we get sick, and then we are healthy. Hence Nietzsche also, because of his dismissal of ressentiment, disapproves of the Christian dogma of pity or compassion. Of course, there are differences between pity and compassion, but it's difficult to translate Mitleid from the German. Why this disapproval of pitiful forgiveness? For him, this is just ressentiment turned on its head. What is necessary is to learn how to forget, not how to forgive. Who are we to forgive? We need to learn how to forget. Because someone who forgives does not forget, but rather constantly reminds the person he or she has forgiven of her or his great compassion and ability to forgive. That breeds ressentiment. Isn't it an ingenious move to say that actually Christianity is nihilism, where Christianity was claimed to be against nihilism and a remedy against nihilism? Does it find the center? Remedium? Does it remediate? For Nietzsche, of course, we need to find the right place for us, where the right time of a space unfolds. Climate is very important also for Nietzsche, as well as the human beings that dwell there in their ways. To become what one is, Nietzsche writes in Ecce Homo, presupposes that one does not in the least sense what one is. That is crucial also. The presupposition is a negative one. We do not know who we are when we leave. We just have the urge to leave. And we have the urge to accept suffering. But we do not have any idea of who we are. And there's no noumenal place for self-creation. There's no place where we just self-create ourselves from out of nothing. Because we don't know who we are, where we become who we are by not sensing yet who we are. To not want to be someone else, Nietzsche continues, or any different, that must be the goal, but even that goal is not presupposed. That is where one arrives, and then you know you are completely free from ressentiment. You are living up to this highest ideal of amor fati, that all is pure becoming, and there's a love of what is utterly necessary, and what's necessary cannot be avoided. That means the love of ourselves as tragic beings, and not of our ideal of ourselves as perfectly psychologically and medically optimizable, so-called happy human beings. Of course, for Nietzsche, Torino was this place where he was possible. He wrote, "I am so delighted, I am so relieved, strengthened," as he writes in a letter to Georg Brandes. We are faced with Nietzsche with an insight into our time that perhaps we sometimes forget what's there in Nietzsche. He says, incipit tragödia. Tragedy is setting in again. Our epoch is the epoch where we either begin to understand the tragic truth at the heart of existence again, or we fall into resentment for life which is suffering itself. Thank you very much.